Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Premier League check-in podcast with myself, Benjamin Bloom, and the great Matt SB. Matt has done me a big favour because where we're from, it's Sunday night, and we've just had two Premier League games kick off at 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. But one we were interested in, Matt, was Southampton, and we will have a look at the bottom of the table. And Southampton have lost 5-0 to Spurs. They were 5 down at half-time. It's a big welcome to you, Matt, but it's another horrible defeat for Russ Martin and Southampton. They're 9 points off safety, one win in 16. That 5 points looks very lonely. What next for Saints?
Yeah, it's a big welcome to me. And is it a big goodbye to Russell Martin, maybe? No, that's not very nice, but it could be. It could be. Yeah, not a good result. Obviously, hello to the viewers. And we're hot off the press with the results over the weekend. We've got a lot to talk about down at the bottom, and things are not getting better for Southampton, of course. We're going to come on to Wolves as well. It feels like those two in particular had the worst weekends, and obviously Ipswich with a big result. But as you say, Southampton playing Spurs on the Sunday night, and in a sense, it felt like an opportunity for them, didn't it? With Spurs' sort of weird run and ability to drop points here, there, and everywhere and concede goals at any given moment. Obviously, drew 1-1 with Rangers in the Europa League in midweek.
Away as well. They travelled, didn't they?
They did travel, yeah. And it's certainly busy with the fixtures, Tottenham. And I think they've got the Carabao Cup in midweek coming. So it's a crazy time, isn't it, December? But in a sense, an opportunity. I think we both fancy Southampton at home a bit more. The same for any of the teams down at the bottom, really. I think they're going to get the majority of their points at home. But as you pointed out, it wasn't just a defeat, but it was the manner of the defeat, 5-0 and 5-0 down at half-time. Mistakes here, there and everywhere. Obviously, credit to Tottenham for a very efficient win, and they've relieved the pressure on Ange Postecoglou. But as I said at the very start, I worry for Russell Martin now, because we'd said at times they've been unlucky, they've got a fighting chance, but this kind of result is a damning one for sure.
Yeah, and I'm just looking, that's 2 home games in a row. They've conceded 5, 3 against Liverpool in the previous one as well. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Like you said, Southampton are actually in the EFL Cup as well, so that might be a big help to Russ Martin, that he's got them all the way through with that. But yeah, it's looking very, very bleak for Southampton. And like you say, the other big losers were Wolves, and we have had a sacking at Wolves. And this has been like set up for weeks, hasn't it? You teed it up as okay. They've had the hard fixtures. They basically played all the top half and then all the bottom half, and it was going all right, wasn't it? When the fixtures changed, but then a big defeat against Bournemouth, got thrashed by Everton. We thought West Ham might be the last one on Monday, but as an Ipswich Town fan, the best thing that possibly could have happened was Gary O'Neill, as it's customary this time of year, stay another day, Gary, and he did. And a late home defeat, and O'Neill is out. And can you understand it? Because he's been arguing, well, look, you've sold all my players from me. He was even saying we had this many points and you've sold this many players. How many points do you expect me to get? But the team's not been very good either, has it? So, you've got to work better with what you've got. Do you understand the sacking?
Yeah, completely. And I'm quite a big Gary O'Neill enthusiast, actually. I really liked the job he did at Bournemouth. I thought it was unfair at the time when he was sort of let go, but obviously you can see Bournemouth doing great with Iriola now. And initially at Wolves did a great job, but it just seems as in maybe 10, 11, maybe 12 months, maybe the whole of 2024 has been a downward trend. I agree with players going out the door. I also think maybe a bit unfortunate with some injuries. I mean, they look really depleted at the back. And I mean, people will all have their own views on when he should have gone. I've got to a point now where I think he had to go. And we said last week, didn't we, Ben, that after the West Ham game, you were a bit unsure if, West Ham winning means that Wolves would get rid of him and then have the new manager bounce. But they just stuck with him. And now in hindsight, Wolves fans might have been like, if we'd have got rid of O'Neill before this game, we could have won the Ipswich game, but might still have lost it. You never know. But let's see what happens now, I guess.
And they've got Leicester next week. So it's the same. It's the same conversation again. Look, mate, I've just done the Blue Monday podcast, so I've talked about Ipswich for a whole hour. we've kind of concluded that for promoted teams, you're never going to win a game comfortably in the Premier League. It's always going to be by the odd goal, and everything has to line up. And it did for Ipswich, and they, for once, came up against a team with less confidence than they've got and snatched the late goal. But it's a big win for Ipswich. I know, Matt, you can now turn around and say, right, Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea coming up, but that will breed great confidence, and they're only 2 points off Leicester now.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, first of all, a massive congratulations to Ipswich. It was a massive game that both had to win. We said a draw probably wouldn't do either good. There's two sides of a coin for how to look at this in terms of some people will say, oh, well, they're not winning at home, and that's what's going to keep them up if they are going to stay up. But also incredible character to go and get these 2 away wins at Tottenham and in particular Wolves. This was a massive game. And you think in terms of the confidence maybe being shot after what happened against Bournemouth, but incredibly strong character to stick at it. Obviously, we're leading for 1-0 and Wolves did pull one back late on, and you're just thinking, oh no. But great character right at the end, good header, and Ipswich took the 3 points. And going into some hard games as well, because it's relieved a little bit of pressure. Just because you've closed the gap a little bit, you're still in the bottom 3, and you need maybe a result somewhere in these 3 games. Maybe if you can get, I don't know, can you get 1 win possibly against Newcastle, and then you might afford the 2 defeats in the other games.
Without Liam Delap against Newcastle, Matt.
It's a big miss. It's a big miss. Crucial yesterday, I must say. He played a big part in that first goal, didn't he? Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Ipswich, though. You know, there's certainly goals in that team. That's a massive thing down at the bottom. To win the 6 pointers as well, you have to win those head-to-heads. And we've said that Ipswich have maybe been unlucky here and there, especially against Leicester. But what a win. And that late goal could be pivotal when we look back at this in May.
I think as we go up this table, Matt, we're going to get comments saying, right, it's 3 from 4 now, and Wolves are now chaotic enough to be in with the 3 promoted teams. And the 3rd promoted team are Leicester, and we've given Leicester a load of credit for whenever they've been in a game this season, they've had a chance to get points. You've mentioned they've got a bit more Premier League savvy than, certainly than the likes of Ipswich. And probably more Southampton with what Russ Martin's trying to do there. They've managed to dig out draws and wins and late goals and whatnot. They got hammered by Newcastle, and worryingly, because he's been brilliant, Hermansen, the keeper, is now going to be out. It's Wolves next week with a potential new manager bounce. And with that Ipswich win, it does suck Leicester straight back in, doesn't it? That 3-point swing.
Yeah, it's so unforgiving, isn't it? And
it's not us being fickle. You're right. No. It's unforgiving. It's not us just changing our mind every week.
No, it's unforgiving. And it was more than just the 4-0 if you look at the highlights. I mean, Jacob Murphy could have had 3, 4, 5 goals or something himself. So a disaster in terms of the manner of the defeat as well. Blows their goal difference down a bit further. But you wonder, I mean, if the Leicester fans look at this in chunks of games, you think these first 3 games now under Ruud, 4 points, that is a sustainable, if you keep doing that over 3 games, it's just a point per game, really, we've said, churn that out and you'll be okay. But you wonder, with the fact that Newcastle hadn't won in a few games, that they'd been struggling, is that because Newcastle needed a reaction and it all came in one game and it might be a little bit of an outlier result, or is this a sign of things to come, possibly for Leicester? But it's so tediously balanced right now, Ben, that if they win next week, we'll be praising them again. Oh, they're 5 points clear of the bottom 3 or something. So it can swing in the next game week, but still in a reasonable position and still very early days for Ruud van Nistelrooy. 4 points from the first 3 games is all right, but yeah, wasn't a good way to lose, was it?
Absolutely not. And Joe pointed out on Blue Monday, in Ruud van Nistelrooy's 3 games, and you'll balk at this, Leicester have conceded 76 shots. So they've got points in those games where they've been very open. And if that swings the other way, problems. Your barometer, Matt, and I kind of agree with it. You don't judge teams who have got a point per game really as being in relegation trouble, do you? And although I'm starting to feel, little sidebar here, that with the fact that up at the top of the league, the big teams are actually dropping points. Maybe you'll tell me those points are going into the middle of the table, but we might get a little high tide at the bottom. It might, the 34, 35 we're talking about might go up to 36, 37. I don't know. But Everton, if you're going to go and draw at Arsenal and keep a clean sheet, that's superb. And that's not what a team that's going to get relegated is going to do, is it?
Yeah, it was a weird weekend at the top of the title race. 3 or 4 of the teams didn't win. And yeah, the points are going towards the teams in this region of the table because Everton took a draw off Arsenal. The week before, Palace got a draw against Man City. Yeah, I think there's a fine line. We were talking about points per game. I think if you're on a point per game, you're relatively all right. But if you lose your next game, you're below a point per game again, and all of a sudden it slightly changes. So I think you look at teams past a point per game with the breathing space. Everton, you think is going to be all right, but they're never able to get away from trouble. But you've got to give them so much credit. You know, what a good result at Arsenal. I think I predicted them to lose 2-0. I thought the only way they would get a result is to grind out a 0-0, and that's what they've done. You know, credit to them, considering Arsenal have got to win games. What a missed opportunity for Arsenal if we're going to come on to them, because Liverpool dropped points. They all dropped points. They all needed to win. But well done to Everton, sticking in there, getting a draw. Decent sort of little run. I mean, you know, they're not scoring many goals on the road, but if they can grind out draws here and there with the odd wins scattered in there, they're keeping their heads above water, and that's the main thing, isn't it?
Speaking of decent runs, Crystal Palace are just looking a level above everybody down at the bottom. They've really done what we said they were going to do. 1 defeat in 9. Gone away to Brighton and won it well as well. Really impressed by Palace. Unbeaten in 5 as well. And they've got 3, 6, 9 points across the 5 games. Are we just not going to be mentioning Palace again now in these segments this season?
Possibly, yeah. Palace and Wolves were viewed in a similar way at the start of the season because they're both Premier League regulars, and we thought, oh, surely they'll both push away. One is, and that is Palace. Obviously, we've spoke about Wolves, and maybe their problems are deep rooted compared to Palace, and Palace have got so much quality there still. I mean, when some people are saying, oh, they've lost Elise, it shouldn't account for this much of a fall off, should it? Because they've still got Gay, they've still got Eze, they've got Mateta, they've got plenty of Premier League experience. And remember what a good job Glasner did towards the end of last season. So, as you say before, muscle memory, is it starting to kick in now? The results they're getting are not of a team that you'd find down in this region of the table. To turn Brighton over 3-1, the 2-2 draw against Man City, and we spoke about that win over Ipswich as well. They're on a fine run now, so things would have to go drastically wrong for them to get sucked back in. But because of their poor start, if there is that little splodge of games, should we say, where they now only get 1 point in the next 3, they haven't built up a massive buffer over this. So they could suddenly get pulled back in if the form turns, but it doesn't suggest that it will, given how the form's going at the moment.
And just quickly, Matt, a player you and I studied in the Championship, Ismaila Sarr, who, when you watched him sometimes, you would think he should put up Mitrovic, Pablo Hernandez, Buendia, Grealish numbers in the Championship and never quite put it together. I'm really pleased to see he's now getting it together and looks the player that for 5 minutes every month he looked when he was in a Championship at Watford as a £30 million player. There is your look down at the bottom of the table. And I think the question I want people to answer in the comments, Matt, is: are we 3 from 4? Are Wolves now chaotic enough that we are definitely bringing them into that conversation with the 3 promoted teams? Because Everton and Palace, with those results this week, are maybe telling us they're going to be trended in the other way. Let us know your thoughts. World of the week, Matt. You mentioned the title race, and well, Man City, we normally just discuss them winning the title, but they're incredibly far back in the title race. They lost the game. Our worldie of the week is Amad Diallo, and again, this is with our EFL heads on after an amazing loan at Sunderland, where he basically shot them into the playoffs, didn't he? If he hadn't been there, they wouldn't have finished in the playoffs, would they, that season? But brilliant late goal from him. And if you can parlay that into your thoughts on the title race with everybody, well, other than Chelsea, really, dropping points. And can we include Forest in the title race as well?
Maybe. I think we're going to come on to Forest later. So if there's Forest fans watching, don't worry. You've got credit coming your way. But yeah, I mean, like we were saying earlier about teams at the bottom picking up results against teams at the top. Fair play to Man United. Moved 10 points away from the bottom three now. So that is some progress. It was such an interestingly set up Manchester derby, wasn't it? Because they're both not in good form. It's a weird one, isn't it? Man City carry on this horrendous run, obviously 1-0 up for most of it. And I just had that feeling watching it that if they don't get a second here, you can see United maybe snatching a draw. And then obviously United went on to get a second. Fernandes scores the penalty. I think it's on 88 minutes. And I need to fact check this, but someone said to me that there's actually 115 seconds between the two goals, which some people might say is ironic. And obviously, Diallo, yeah, he's going to win Worldie of the Week because it's a nice touch and it's a good finish. You know, puts it across the keeper and there's a defender there getting his legs all tangled trying to clear it and it still goes in. And we need to talk about Diallo. You know, what a great player he was at Sunderland. Like you say, blasted them into the playoffs. So we've seen him a lot in the Championship. I remember a great goal he scored against Coventry. I remember a good goal he scored against Luton in the playoff semi-finals at the Stadium of Light. And yeah, he could be certainly part of that future for Manchester United under Amorim. Early days still, but yeah, he's going to win Worldie of the Week because it was a significant winner as well as a nice goal.
And you can get these players in the EFL, Matt. Look at them stepping up. And he's now, with that goal, he's now a main first choice player going forward for Manchester United. That kind of elevates him there. And you can get these players on loan in the Championship just a couple of years before. Enjoy them is all I will say. Let's talk about Forest then to round this out. Nottingham Forest are above Manchester City, just absolutely outstanding. Look, I know there was be interested to get the Forest fans and the Villa fans take on refereeing stuff because I know there was yeah. Well, look, let the comments burn and say what you need to. I think Villa feeling a little bit aggrieved about refereeing matters and VAR matters and things not being checked when maybe they should be checked. But Forest have done it again, and when you think there's going to be a small drop off, they do lose games, but you'd call them stripy, wouldn't you, Matt? Where they haven't now drawn for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which means they've got 6 wins in 9, which will very much carry you up the table, especially as we've pointed out earlier in the show. Teams are dropping points, aren't they? It's not the normal, you need some absurd, win ratio points per game to be up there. Forest go to Brentford next week, Matt. Arsenal play in the 5:30. They've got to go to Palace in the Ian Wright derby, which is a hard one. And Forest can overtake them and go third, but they've got to go to Brentford and win, which is not easy. But Forest seem to be taking it in their stride and may well go and do that.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about Forest. Every week they're picking up a good result, and I'm thinking we can't keep talking about Nottingham Forest on the Premier League check-in, but they are grabbing headlines, aren't they? Question to the Forest fans in the comments. Feel free to predict, where are you going to finish this season? Because European football, in some way, shape or form, is definitely possible. So do comment where you think you're going to finish this season. Yeah, a lot to discuss, Ben. A great win over Aston Villa. And do you remember, I mean, you go back a couple of weeks and Forest were 3rd or 4th, but the further you go into a season, if they're still up there, obviously the more chance they've got of actually being there come the end of the season as well. And we said that maybe they'd had some favourable fixtures and there was a really difficult run coming where they had Man City, Man United both away, and then Villa at home. And they've got through that with 6 points. Incredible. I mean, the late drama against Villa as well, astonishing. I want to give Emi Martinez some credit, by the way. Save of the week.
A save. Yeah,
possibly good. Save of the season. That
he was. Forest... I saw him play against Ipswich in the flesh, and he was superb as well. He's a proper keeper, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, he's a World Cup winner, isn't he? Yeah, of course. Yeah, very good. But Forest found a way to get 2 goals and to win the game. And so impressed. I mean, like you said, draws can kill you, but they're not drawing many. And as you said, if they've won 6 out of the last 9 and the other 3 are defeats, that's 18 points. That's 2 points per game. That's an incredible rate to be going at. So they've come on leaps and bounds from where they were last season. I know last season it was FFP and let's get over the line, but the last 2 seasons have just been about surviving. And I thought there will be somewhat of an upturn this season, but to go up to fourth place is incredible. Like you say, the possibility of going third this weekend. Looking ahead to this,
Matt, just quickly look where Spurs are 10th, Newcastle are 12th, and Man United are 13th. That, to me, is a door open for a team like Forest. Villa did it last season. Bournemouth,
exactly.
Fulham, etc., who has a good season to take a European spot, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. The door is open. It's an intriguing game, by the way. Like you say, this weekend against Brentford, two teams that were synonymous with our sort of championship coverage in sort of 2020, 2021, and so on and so forth. And Brentford came up, and Forest have come up, and both doing so well. Forest in particular this season, as you say, the opportunity to go third. And you look at it, like you say, the established order are all scattered down the table. The door is open for a Forest, and
Brentford's so good at home, Matt. So best in the league at home, by the way. 22 points in 8 games at home. Brentford, incredible.
They are. Brentford have been fantastic at home this season in particular, just off the back of a 2-1 away defeat to Chelsea. You trust Brentford will score, and Buemo and Visa are obviously always chipping in with goals. And in that first season for Forest in the Premier League, you thought they'll get most of their points at home, but they're picking up good away results now. So it makes it really interesting this coming weekend. So really fascinated to see what happens. As you say, the door might be open. And another thing you've got to bear in mind is with the changes to the European competitions this season, with the fact they've got to play 8 league games, and then they'll probably, most of them, get through to a playoff round. They're all going to be playing more games in Europe. And does that take its toll on Villa and Tottenham and Man United later in the season? Possibly. One team I think who could possibly rise in the second half of the season is Newcastle, by the way, looking at this European sandwich, as we've said before, because they're not in Europe this season. And if, Forest are out of the Carabao Cup, maybe if they were to go out of the FA Cup early, you put all your eggs in the Premier League basket. And we've seen over the last couple of seasons, Villa have snuck in there, Newcastle have snuck in there. Forest are a big club, and with, a much better defence this season, could they sneak in there this season? We'll wait and see.
Brilliant. And when you're teeing it up, it's a good clash of styles as well, isn't it? Because you think Forest will try and, maybe try and nick the game with 1 goal, and Brentford will go for it, and that will give Brentford the chance to attack, but it will give Forest a chance to counter attack. Could be a really, really good one. There is our mouth-watering matchup. Matt, thank you so much for jumping on tonight, Sunday night, as we're recording. You'll be watching this on Monday on the channel. What have we got coming up on the Matt SB channel, not just next week, but as we go into ridiculous Christmas time as well?
Predictions. League One predictions with Benjamin Bloom. Please do check it out. We have great fun over there. Got a lot to work out over the Christmas period with how busy the schedule is going to be. Obviously, myself and Sophie do our Championship and Premier League predictions, so do feel free to check those out as well. And obviously, I cover Coventry City and some other Premier League and Championship bits here and there. So, more footballing content. Get involved and check it out.
I think, just to correct you, I think that's Frank Lampard's Coventry City, where you're concerned, Mr. SB. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Go and head over to the Matt SB channel, and he'll link you up with the Extra Coventry channel as well, which is fascinating, a really interesting club to follow over a lot of years now. Coventry, never a dull moment, and never a dull moment on the Premier League Check-In podcast. Get your views in the comments on Amad Diallo, on Nottingham Forest, on the relegation race. Are we down to just 4 in the sacking of Gary O'Neill at Wolves? And will Russ Martin still be standing by the time this one is uploaded to YouTube? Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next week.